News Center Maine is partnering with the Maine-Monitor to bring you some of the reporting done by journalists there. Today we have Matt Junger here. We're going to talk about ranked choice. So how was this ranked choice voting tabulation different than years past?
Sure. Hi, LeeAnn. Thanks for having me today. So the biggest difference you'll see this year, I think, in the results is that we had two come-from-behind winners. That had only ever happened once before in the 8 years that Maine has been using ranked choice voting in statewide elections. So that's a pretty remarkable and new result for us here in the state. You also had the most ever major races go to a ranked choice runoff. We had only ever had two at the same time. That was the high water mark in 2018. You had the Democratic primary for governor, which Janet Mills won in 2018, and the Democratic primary for the Maine 2nd Congressional District, which Jared Golden won in 2018, happening at the same time. That was the most we'd ever had in these 8 years. And this year you had three major races go into a ranked choice tabulation. And so you had the Republican governor primary, the Democratic primary for governor, and the Democratic primary for Maine 2nd Congressional District, all needing a ranked choice tabulation because no candidate got more than 50% of the vote initially. And then the results, the fact that you had two come-from-behind winners in Hannah Pingree winning the Democratic governor's primary, and you also had Matt Dunlap winning the Democratic race for CD2. Again, that had only ever happened one time, a come-from-behind winner in Maine's history of ranked choice voting in the last decade or so, and we had two announced within a span of half an hour, one late night in Augusta. And that late night also was a little different as well. Your colleague Christian Harsa was there for all of it, and we were in sort of a hurry up and wait kind of scenario. It ended up being a 17-hour day as the tabulation finished. What was different this year, again, it's always taken some time, but there was a sort of, the Secretary of State's office was almost overpromising at times. They thought they were going to be done at a certain time, and then a hiccup would come up, some sort of unexpected issue.
And looking at campaign trails for some of the people that were on the ballots, we've heard from some folks who say they want to get rid of ranked choice voting, some folks who are for it. So how did ranked choice voting play out on the campaign trail leading up to primary day?
This was a particularly interesting year for ranked choice strategy in the primary. That may just be a function of it's been around for 8 years and people are more and more used to it, both sort of in campaign apparatuses and voters. But you really saw campaigns, both Democrats and to a smaller extent Republicans, embracing that sort of direct appeal to voters based on the ranked choice process. You had three candidates in the Democratic governor's primary sort of co-endorsed, do this sort of cross-endorsement where they got together and they said, basically, I hope you vote for me, but if you don't vote for me, rank these two other people second and third. And that group was Hannah Pingree, who ended up winning, and former Senate President Troy Jackson, and current Secretary of State Jenna Bellows. And you did sort of see, it's hard to know exactly, how successful that was, that cross endorsement, but you did see generally as one of those candidates was knocked out of the ranked choice tabulation, their votes tending to go towards one or both of those two other candidates. So I think you did see some impact in the Democratic primary there. In the Republican governor's primary, you saw a smaller level of that sort of either endorsements or anti-endorsements of other candidates based on ranked choice, but I'm not sure that it had as much of an impact. You did see Robert Wessels, who was one of the candidates eliminated first in the Republican primary. He had basically said, rank Jonathan Bush second. That was his encouragement to supporters, and he actually, in kind of I believe it might have been the first time that we've seen this for an active candidate, serve as a campaign co-chair for Jonathan Bush's campaign for part of the campaign. So that was an interesting dynamic, especially on the Republican side, where there is still this pretty entrenched opposition to ranked choice voting in general. Certainly more adoption of ranked choice strategy on the Democratic side, which is not surprising given that historically in the last decade or so, Democrats have been more supportive of the ranked choice process itself. But you also saw some Republican campaigns starting to kind of maybe more tepidly, but still embrace ranked choice strategy as well. And so that was, you talk to folks who study and support ranked choice voting nationally, and I think they would tell you that this has been sort of a high watermark for Maine in terms of that strategy on the campaign trail this year.
And looking to the future, what's next for ranked choice voting in Maine?
I think that depends on who you ask. I think, as we saw in the most recent legislative session, Democrats are very interested in expanding ranked choice voting to other races and elections that it's not currently used here in Maine. And I think you're going to continue to see some pretty entrenched Republican opposition to it. In fact, Bobby Charles showed up in Augusta while that tabulation was still ongoing. And basically said, if I'm elected governor, I'm going to work to repeal this system. Now, that would probably require Republican control of both the legislature and the Blaine House, and it's been unified Democratic control for the last 8 years, so there would have to be a big shift. But Republicans have made clear, if they do wrestle control back in Augusta, this would, I think, be on their list of things to do, which would be to repeal ranked choice voting.